Islam, 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 and welcome to the Moorish Light, where the podcast is a revolution. We will begin with the Moorish prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector. Allah is my guide, and Allah is my salvation. By night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. And once again, welcome to the Moorish Light, where the podcast is a revolution, giving praises to the Almighty God, Allah, the causeless cause, and the rootless root from which all things have come. I honor the last prophet in this dispensation, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, in the first, second, and third form. I give honor to Grand Sheikh John Gibbons Hill, Prophet Noble Drew Ali reincarnated, as well as to my teacher, Grand Sheikh Richardson Dingle Hill, Prophet Noble Drew Ali the third, as well as to his brother, Grand Sheikh Timothy Dingle hyphen Prophet Noble Drew Ali, modern day Moses and Aaron, God, man, and prophet. I'd like to give honor to Supreme Grand Sheikh and Sheikh Prather Hill, to our National and State Grand Sheikh Tiffany Jones Bank, and to all those listening, and to all members, ministers, sheikhs, and sheikhesses of the Moorish Science Temple, Divine, and National Movement. I want to read about light, since this is the Moorish Light. Spiritually, light represents truth, divine wisdom, and awakening. It is the ultimate symbol of knowledge, dispelling the ignorance of darkness across the various belief systems. It signifies life, purity, and the presence of a higher power or cosmic energy guiding the soul. It is also known as the divine presence, wisdom and truth, hope and guidance, and the inner awakening. So, all that happens within the teachings of the Moorish Light. So today, we'll begin as always. We will be reading from the Holy Quran of Mecca. Of course, I will share that with you. And we're reading Surah 4, Ayat 9 and 10. And preserve them from all ills. Any whom thou dost preserve from ills that day, on them wilt thou have bestowed mercy indeed. That will be truly for them the highest achievement. That is the final judgment, and any who is saved from the evil consequences of their deeds in this life will truly have been saved by Allah's mercy. For them it is the highest achievement they could have, the attainment of all their wishes, the fulfillment of their destiny, and the noblest purpose of their life, the supreme salvation and felicity. It says in the footnote of 9, Muslim salvation, or I'm going to say Muslim salvation then, is more positive than mere safety from dangers or evils. It is the complete fulfillment of the noble destiny of man and the attainment of the fullest grace. And as we move forward, and when we talk about the Moorish Science Temple, our prophet is Noble Drew Ali, the last prophet in these days and times. And it has been declared a new era of time since August the 1st, 1928, 2:52 p.m., where all men should be worshiping under their own vine and fig tree, which means you should be respecting and honoring your forefathers. There is no one shoe fits all or one box fits all. Every nation has a revelation sent to them through the prophet. The revelation is universal. The purpose of the revelation is to help those people who are downtrodden. And in these days and times, that would be those of us who are clinging to the slave labels of Negro, Black, Colored, or whatever else we create. 10 says, the unbelievers will be addressed. Greater was the aversion of Allah to you than is to your aversion to yourselves, seeing that ye were called to the faith, and ye used to refuse. The unbelievers, having rejected Allah's signs, they now see how they are shut out from grace, and they feel disgusted with themselves. How much greater was Allah's displeasure with them when He showered mercy upon mercy on them, and they yet rebelled. How could they now hope for grace? Every opportunity is given to the people of the world, and usually at the era of time that prophet comes, the people of the time are more rebellious. And in this case, some of them think they're more divinely prepared. Please forgive me, my voice is acting up a little bit, but I still had to do my job. I got to do what I got to do. So, in essence, we have a job to do. Those of us who say we are Moorish Americans, we are supposed to be solving the Negro problem through the Moorish divine and national movement. So, without further ado, let me get to our topic of today. And our topic of today is actual freedom versus reparations, the end result. What you think about that? Actual freedom versus reparations, the end result. So we're going to get into that in a minute. I want to stop sharing this. And we want to talk about what is reparations. Maybe some of us don't really realize what that means. I'm going to look for it legally. See if I can find what I'm looking for. Okay, this is a whole nother ball game. I'm not going to do that one. So I'm just going to define reparations. I'm going to go to a dictionary definition. And it's amazing now. So first we're going to look at I'm going to share this with you in a second. Give me 1 second here. Go back here. First, we're going to look at what it really meant in before we decided to try to claim it. So let's just take a look at reparations. Okay, so reparations, the act of making amends for a past wrong, typically is done by paying money, providing services, offering other forms of compensation to those who have been unjustly treated or harmed. And then we have social and historical justice, compensation or structural repair given by a government or institution to a targeted group. For example, descendants of slave people, indigenous communities, to make up for historical injustices, systemic oppression, and economic disparity. Then we have war and international laws, payment, goods, or labor given by a defeated nation to a victorious nation to cover injuries, death, financial damages caused by the war. So let's talk about, let's take a little dive into slavery. So we want reparations because we were held as slaves. Now, the first thing we should have to ask ourselves is, what did slavery look like? Does it still look the same today, dressed in a better costume now? And if we receive monies, where would they go? So I was on Facebook earlier today, and I'm going to read a statement that, because there's a congresswoman who's pushing for reparations. And so my comment, and this is my comment, we love picking political bones with no meat. What will reparations do if you are still a mental slave? Will it restore our birthrights? Will it give us a seat among the families of nations? Or is it just another crumb to go along with the dried up crumb of civil rights? Will it give us simple citizenship? Reparations to stay black instead of a true emancipation process, which is already law. And that's what we're actually comparing. Reparations, a theory we've created, as opposed to actual freedom and emancipation process that's already law. So, the end result. Under reparations, what are some of the things that's going to change? Will we end up with land? Will we be restored our names and language and those things we were stripped of? Will we have our flag? Will we have, because right now we have an identity crisis because we say we're black, we're African, we're colored. We got all these slave titles that we're claiming as an identity. And the only law that governs those titles is the Dred Scott decision, which has never truly been reversed. Somehow, somewhere along the line, and basically during Reconstruction, we got betrayed. We got betrayed because, one, they hated Lincoln. Two, they wanted to punish the Southerners, and we became that tool to punish the Southerners. And three, they made the government basically a dictatorship as opposed to every state having a Republican form of government. So, what does the end result of reparation looks like? Will you still be dealing with civil rights? Yes. Will you still be in need of true citizenship or simple citizenship? Yes. Will you still be supporting a system that you say is unfair and unjust to you? Yes. And on that particular note, we are now in an uproar, and now the Asians are the problem. The Asians aren't the problem. The problem is the system itself that allows these things to happen. If you don't want these injustices, then you're going to have to change the system that allows these injustices to happen. Has reparations ever been discussed on the floor of Congress, the Senate, or Congress prior to these recent years? No. Can you pay a slave who, under all other circumstances, is still classified as a slave? What is a slave? A slave is property. How do you know it's property? One, the name. I'm not a sea breeze. I don't come from England or wherever where sea breeze is, or Mr. Batts, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Washington, Mr. Green. These are all names that I still identify us as property. And somewhere in our minds, we think if we change our name, we change our condition. But change your mind and change your condition, which is what we do in the Moore Science Temple. We change minds. Not not on a belief system, but on a historical, constitutional, divine, national, and moral level. We change minds. So, so far I haven't found uh, how reparations will benefit us because we don't have an economic structure to even place reparations in. We don't have a mindset to deal with reparations outside of giving it back to the system that gave it to us. So now we're going to look at this from another perspective. So we teach
Miss Love, sister,
the actual freedom emancipation process.
can you hear me?
And one of the ways we have to understand that is that we have to look at the September the 22nd proclamation of 1862. So I am going to share that because I want you to see that it's a real document. Let me get back to it.
Can you hear me?
It's called the Preliminary Emancipation Proclamation of September the 22nd, 1862. So, as we break this down, you need to pay close attention. First, let's talk from paragraph 1, and I'm only going to highlight the main ideas. Paragraph 1 talks about why the war is being fought, and it is to practically restoring the constitutional relation between the United States and each of the states, the people thereof, in which states that relation is or may be suspended or disturbed. It's a constitutional relation thing here going on. Then we go to paragraph 2. Now I'm doing this because this is the plan. This is the proposal. This is the plan outlining how actual freedom should actually go. Upon the next meeting of Congress, we will again notice that upon the next meeting of Congress, to again recommend the adoption of a practical measure tendering pecuniary aid, which is also compensation, to the acceptance of all. Let me make that big. See, I don't want nobody tell me, cause see that all slave states, so called, the people whereof may not have been in rebellion against the United States. So it's for all slave states. When the
Islam,
southern
I said
states
something.
came back into the Union, they had to take an oath to uphold this proclamation.
Can you hear me?
Why are you talking about the South? Because the South is where slavery was and had to be gradually abolished. Then we see on the 1st of January in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves within those states that are designated where the Constitution is either suspended or disturbed shall be forever free. And listen, who will protect their freedom? The executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons and will do no act or acts to repress such persons or any of them in any efforts they may make for actual freedom. So there's a distinction between freedom and actual freedom. So here's the proposal: 100 days to come back into the Union. You're not back into the Union within those 100 days, which is January the 1st, 1863. You will be designated as in rebellion. This is a whole proposal here. And there's some other paragraphs, but because of the program and time, I have to only
Islam,
do
no.
it
Can you
this
hear me?
way. Now, we also, our topic is what's the end result? So we want to look at this from a biblical standpoint, or let's do it a better way. Let's look at it as it was discussed on the floor of the Senate. How about that? I think that's even more valid. So let's see. So, March 31st, 1864, had a whole discussion on slavery. Some of the things I'll read the first line. Slavery had existed under some form or other from the first period of recorded history. It dates back beyond the period of Abraham, the father of the faithful, and whose seed all nations of the earth were to be blessed. We find that immediately after the flood, the Almighty, for purposes inscrutable to us, condemned a whole race to servitude. Volume or nukanon effetohem ye'eholeeka. And he said, cursed be Cain, and slaves of slaves shall he be to his brethren. Justification, yes. It says it continued among the people until the advent of the Christian era. It was recognized in that new dispensation. We're now in another new dispensation, which was to supersede the old. And I'm not going to read all this. I will do a program on this, but I do want to get to the point. So the discussion goes on. It says, among all people and all ages has this institution, if such it is to be called, existed, had the countenance of wise and good men. even of the Christian church itself, until these modern times, up at least until the 19th century. It exists in this country and has existed from the beginning. Mr. Holland's reply to the position of Mr. Salisbury that slavery is right, is a divine institution, etc., was very able and interesting. He piled up authority after authority, English as well as American, to show that there is no support of slavery, especially of the title of to services of the adult offspring of a slave at common law, and also after proving by the mouth of the favorite son of Virginia, it has no legal existence by virtue of any municipal or statutory law. He declared that the only remaining law that can be cited for its support is the Levitical Code as follows. Let me make it big because I want you to see, because I don't want you to think I'm putting words into things. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou, and then remember now, what year we in? 1864. 1864, April 8th, and the March, April 8th in the Senate. I probably got that date wrong, but we can go back and look at it. It says, both thy bondmen and bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the
Can you hear
heathen
me?
round about you. Of them all you buy bondsmen and bondmaids. Moreover, the children of strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall you buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, they shall be your possession. And you shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for possession, and shall be your bondmen forever. I remark, said he, and the connection that the Levitical Code or the Hebrew law contains a provision for the naturalization of foreigners, whether captives of war or voluntary immigrants. By compliance with the requirements of that law, they became citizens entitled to all the rights and privileges and immunities of native Hebrews. The Hebrew slave code applicable to enslaved Hebrews is in these words: if thy brother, Hebrew man or Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee and serve thee 6 years, then in the seventh year thou shalt let him go free. Here I request your attention to those who claim compensation for emancipated slaves. When thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. So let me ask the question, maybe because I might be wrong, and I can stand to be corrected. When they told you you was free, what did you get? Now it says here you are to furnish them liberally out of thy flock and out of thy floor, which means granaries out of thy winepress, wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. It shall not be hard unto thee when thou sendest him away free from thee, for he hath been worth a double hire serving thee 6 years. These Hebrew statutes provide that the heathen might be purchased and held as slaves, and the posterity after them. Under the naturalization laws, all strangers and sojourners, bond and free, have the privilege of acquiring the right of citizenship. So, when did we just get simple citizenship with civil rights? Not civil rights claiming citizenship, but when did we get citizenship with civil rights? Because other citizens have civil rights. They don't come under no special laws or privileges. Let's go just a little further. At the end of 6 years, a Hebrew man, thus demanding his liberty, was not to be sent away empty. The owner, so far from claiming compensation from his neighbors from the public treasury, because everybody profited from slavery, there was even a national banking system established so that compensation could be paid to end slavery. Part of the debt of the war. It says, um, from the public treasury for setting him free was bound to divide with the freeman of his own possessions, to give him of his flocks, his herds, his granary, and of his winepress, and of everything which the Lord thy God Almighty had blessed the master during the years of servitude. Then the owner was admonished that he was not to be regarded as a hardship, to be required to liberate the slaves to divide with him of his substance. So I'm just asking, when, where, how, and what did we receive when somebody said to us we were free? Because our leaders of the hour was talking about they wanted the right to vote. Can't he to vote? They didn't ask for land, they didn't ask for money, they didn't ask for anything that would help the survival of the man who was leaving the plantation, who was leaving slavery. They didn't ask for education, they didn't ask for anything that would uplift that man from that state. They did remove the shackles, but they never, never, ever did they alleviate the mental state of slavery. And if I'm wrong, like I said, I stand to be corrected. It says the Almighty places the liberated slave's claim to a division of his former master property on the eternal principles of justice and a duty to render an equivalent for an equivalent. So, let's think about the condition of the South after the Civil War. Devastated. Who devastated it? The Union had to devastate it in order to stop the war. So, did the people from the North benefit from slavery? Yes. Did the people from the South, of course, they benefited? Yes. So, to say, so to end it, everybody got to put their coins in the pot. But again, what did we get? We went from being held as slaves to peonage, from peonage to jail. And those of us who didn't go to jail, we served a system that we knew, or, or ignored the fact that the system itself was unjust or unjust. So I'm going to read a little further. It says, the slave has served these 6 years. Years must be paid for his service, paid liberally because he has been worth even more than a higher servant during the period of his enslavement. If then, continued Mr. Harlan, the justice of this claim cannot be found either in reason or natural justice or the principles of common law, or in any positive municipal statute regulation of any state, or in the Hebrew code written by the finger of God protruded from the flames of the fire of the summit of Sinai, I ask, whence the origin of the title to the services of the adult offspring of the slave mother? Or is it not manifest that there is no just title? This is 2026, and you want reparations under your so called slave master's name. Don't you want to give him his name back? Don't you want to stop being classified as property? It closes with this. It is not mere usurpation without any known mode of justification on the existing codes of law, human or divine. Chattel slavery de- dehumanized us, took everything given to us by the great God, left us in a state where not only do we dehumanize, but we begin to worship this man as God. And some of us think our elevation in this world is imitating whatever he does. Some of us see this as a social issue. It's not social. And why I say that, because some people, what all do they use civil rights for? That's supposed to be for us and supposed to be elevating us as a nation of people. What are they using it for? Is it elevating us? Or is everybody stepping on top of us and going on about their business? We must ask ourselves these questions. Let me go back here because I did. Um, Brother Sheik Jackson, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Are you speaking? I don't. Let me see something. That. Give me a second here. Say something. I don't know if I unmuted you or not. I guess I did. Okay, see if you can speak now.
Can you hear me?
Islam, you're speaking, but I
Islam.
still cannot hear you. Hmm,
Can you hear me?
that's strange. Let me stop sharing. Maybe that'll help. Now try speaking. Hmm. You're not muted, but I can't hear you. Hmm. I'm not exactly what
Islam.
I need to do.
Can you
Let's
hear me?
get your voice here. You're not muted. Are you muted on your end? Because you're not muted here.
You gotta speak
Hmm.
up.
I can see you're talking,
Can you hear
but
me?
I can't spend the rest of the show doing this. We're going to have to work on whatever this problem is. Um, but then I
I hear
also
you. Can you hear me?
am going to go to, so I'm going to share one more biblical verse here. And this is the process that freedom should take. It says, and ye shall hallow the 50th year. How did that change? I'm going to keep working it till I perfect it. I'm showing bear with it. And And ye shall hallow the 50th year. The proclamation of September the 22nd, 1862, took effect January the 1st, 1863. So if I were to add 50 years to 1863, I would come up with 1913. That would have been our first jubilee. When the prophet came on the scene, we should have been celebrating actual freedom, and we should have been celebrating being restored our birthright. We should have been in our land, Egypt of the West, between the Rockies and the Allegheny Mountains. But you have to have a level of faith, a level of historical and divine reality in order to understand that that's a destination. Because those mountaintops that Martin Luther King was talking about were those Rockies and those Allegheny Mountains. So Jubilee in 1913 should have been a Jubilee in 1963. Should have been a Jubilee in 2013. Three Jubilees behind time. But we want reparations. It says, and ye shall hallow the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you. You shall return every man to his possession. Were we returned to anything? Did we receive anything? And a dollar bill is not going to make up for our resources that you have taken. It's not going it's not going to make up for you making us believe or helping us to believe that we're black and attached to nothing. You shall return every man to his family. And it's a whole sacred thing that should happen in Jubilee because you have stored up for 6 years everything you've been putting in storage and putting stuff away so that when the year of Jubilee comes, you don't have to farm, you don't have to do nothing because you set up enough storage and grown enough food until you're prepared not to do that. So that's the biblical side. Now we can go back to the historical side just a bit. So we know that the foundation is found in September the 22nd, 1862. So let's stop sharing. And so um, I am not certain. Okay, stay focused. So what else do we need to look at? So we talked about, let's summarize this up. Under reparations, we will still have civil rights. We'll still have the slave labels Negro, Black, and colored. Um, we'll still have no investments. Um, we will still have no, we won't have anything to build economically with. Let me put it that way. We won't have land, we won't have a banking system. We won't have our language, we won't have our names. But those things are already guaranteed us. They're guaranteed us through the Compensated Emancipation Proclamation. And I had this conversation with, I talked to AI. AI and I like, we discuss history a lot. And AI said to us, said to me anyway, and if I can, okay, I might have to do that next week because we are running out of time. But if I could, let me look at my little pictures here. Because I take pictures of everything. Let's see. So part of part of what we talk about is the 13th Amendment. And so this is AI response. And he says, we're talking about the sixth article of the Northwest Ordinance. He says, so AI says, applying Article 6 to the whole nation was legally nonsensical by standards of Lincoln's own lifelong legal philosophy. You cannot use a preventative law designed for a blank slate to solve an entrenched multi-billion-dollar institution where 4 million people were already held in bondage. And when you look at the 13th Amendment with two sections in your Constitution, that's what it is. It is Article 6 of the Northwest Ordinance. So he goes on to say the resulting loophole, because the architects of the 13th Amendment copied and pasted a territorial preventive law rather than codifying a brand new active process for natural freedom. Let me read that to you again because I need you to hear. It says, because the architects of the 13th Amendment copy and pasted a territorial preventive law rather than codifying a brand new active process for natural freedom, they imported the 1787 Penal Exception Clause. That mistake allowed for the South to use criminal justice system to reinvent a new process of forced labor. And so after we got to the point where I could get AI to study the 1320, it says, when you look at it this way, Salisbury multi-part substitute article, which demanded a strict state managed procedure with mandatory federal compensation, actually aligned much more closely with Lincoln's original written legal doctrines on how to dismantle existing slavery than the raw, uncompensated text of Article 6 did. You're looking at
Can you hear me
Article
now?
6 of the Northwest Ordinance and you're calling it an amendment for freedom. Then you come back with Section 4 of the 14th Amendment that says monies authorized by law shall not be paid. If it's authorized by law, when did Congress get the power to interpret and hold it null and void? Isn't that the job of the courts? But you want to talk about reparations without change? You want to continue down this path of hell for our children, letting them believe that money makes the man, that material things is what makes people, without teaching them to love themselves. It's um, to the point that we easily have a generation coming up, think another generation coming up as what we call Greeks, and we're not Greek. As a proclaimed Moorish American, my race is Asiatic, the shade of my skin is olive, my nationality is Moorish American. Can you do that with blackness or African or any of that? But the you want the government to pay you to remain held as a slave. Hmm. Is that, does this makes is now we've compared the end results, and I probably should have did a graph for you so that you could visually see that. But here's what I am going to do. We do have another divine and national instruction class this Sunday from 10:15 to 11:30, where we actually go into the history behind this. I can't get into all the history right at this moment, but we're preparing for actual Freedom Day, which is September the 26th, 2026. More presence is required. You go and support Farrakhan, this one and that one. How about supporting your own? We need something. Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us something better than what we're living. He brought a solution to the Negro problem. And we need to let the world know we have that solution. We need to be in Washington, D.C. We need to be making very specific demands. We can't go another generation locked in one mindset as a people. And if you don't go along with that mindset, you hate your people. I love my people. I love my people. I love to see them doing better. That's what I love my people. But I know you can't get any further than where you are until you accept nationhood for yourself, until you accept your nationality, go back to your own principles and the mindset of your forefathers. Because the bottom line is every nation must worship under their own vine and fig tree. Every nation must worship under their own vine and fig tree. We need you. You need us. We need each other to get this job done. This redundancy, this civil rights, come on. What has to happen to wake us up? I ain't talking about getting emotionally excited and being motivated by hate. I'm talking about being motivated by the love of yourself to want to make a change. Self love, one of the things that we learn in Islam, and we need to understand Islam is our birthright religion. Every nation has a birthright religion. Christianity was founded for the European. That is his birthright religion. But when we talk about Islam, I just want to read something. I think, and I'll close on this note because it is beginning to be that time. People say to me, do you have something different to say? No, I only know the truth. That's all I know. I don't know what else to tell you. And I don't have any new truths. The object of a man's life, according to Islam, is its complete unfoldment. Islam teaches that man is born with an unlimited capacity for progress. It does not support the idea that man was born in sin. It teaches that everyone has within him the seed of perfect development, and it rests solely with himself to make or mar his fortune. We haven't been taught that concept that we have an unlimited capacity for progress. But here in the Moorish Science Temple, under Islamism, we are taught that. Here in the Moorish Science Temple, you're taught love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Here in the Moorish Science Temple, you're taught the free national constitution. of the Free National Republic of the United States. The Free National Republic, not just the United States, where every state is guaranteed a Republican form of government. Our Bill of Rights already supports that. I think Section 2 of the 13th Amendment, with 20 sections, says every man has a right to worship God under the dictates of his own conscience. So I can't worship him under your conscience. I have to go under my own conscience. So if a cat had a God, that cat will meow and they can understand. What about us? What about us? Why can't we see ourselves and see the great God? But anyway, that's another topic. Let me not go off and start another topic at the very last minute. But I would like to welcome you to come and join us at 1055 North Milton Avenue, 2900 West Pressman Street. Sundays 12 to 2, Fridays 8 to 10. Um, Again, listen to the Moorish Light and please attend our Divine and National Instructions, Sundays 10:15 to 11:30, as well as prepare for September the 26th, 2026, for the 7th year of actual freedom. So I thank you and I appreciate you. So let me say, embrace the prophet, embrace Allah, embrace divine and national, embrace one another, and embrace the mission. And I thank you and I appreciate you for allowing me to bring to you the Moorish light and love and understanding, where the podcast is a revolution. Peace and love. Family, have a prosperous rest of the week.